Welcome. This is very exciting, and just like to welcome you all to the first annual International Smartabase User Conference. We've been talking about doing this for a couple of years, and I think we've now sort of hit critical mass with people being at various levels of experience and just really starting to get this community of users going. And that's really what this event's all about. You know, there's going to be obviously a lot of technical things. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but I think the other half of it is just going to be all of you getting to meet each other. And I want to, carry that on after this. I'd start by welcoming, thanking you all for coming very much, but especially some people who are travelling a long way. I won't go in any particular order. Steve Reisenhoover over there from the Canadian Athlete Monitoring Program, all the way from Canada. Who else have we got? The guys from Aspire, Phil and Andrew Murray from Qatar. We had Ben and Edwin from Singapore over here. Melvin from Belgium or Netherlands? Belgium, got it, sorry. Close. And Noel from the Scottish Institute of Sport. So thank you for coming very far. I know the rest of you also travel from interstate, a few from the West Coast. And even Callum here from Gold Coast Suns, 500 metres down the road. So well done. I hope you at least walked or something. So welcome and thank you very much. I want to do a quick introduction of our staff because basically we've got a lot of people here. You'll see in the program, we want this to keep this really flexible and iterative. That's what we're all about. So at any point during the conference, if you've got great suggestions, things like that, please bring them forward. We can change the program. We can have breakouts. We've already put in the program some sessions there where we can do sort of focus client breakouts. If you want to grab a builder, just schedule that in with them. We've recommended where those things should happen. There's also this afternoon from 5 till 6. We finish at 2 on Friday deliberately to also allow that to happen. So make sure you use those people and really, just get what you need out of this conference as well. So we've got a second breakout room, the Monaco 2 room, which I haven't seen yet, but it's down about 100 metres that way somewhere. So, but anyway, just grab one of our staff members. Anything you need, we're here to help. Quick shout out, another person who's travelled a long way, Tanya Porter over here, just wave your hand up. So Tanya heads up our US operation. She's based out of Colorado Springs. Tanya spent 20-ish years with the USOC, basically pioneered their performance technology department. Went to 8 Olympic Games as leading their performance technology team, so has an amazing amount of experience in sport performance analysis and just herding sheep in general. So welcome Tanya and thank you for coming such a long way. David Murphy, Smartbase Operations Manager over the back there. Everyone knows him as Murph. Hopefully most of you have probably met him before, but Murph's the one who steers the ship and keeps all the builders on track. Also sort of interfaces with Murph's actually on their implementation team, the only actual programmer, qualified programming engineer. So he's also that interface when we want to integrate things or when we want to write software specs for sort of hard-coded development projects. Jose, there he is. Jose is my invaluable right-hand man and helps to run the business, without whom it would be very difficult. So again, Jose's here just to ever help you with anything. Jose especially heads up all the hardware side of the business. If anyone's got questions about that, pull him aside. He's got things he can show you and just answer your questions in general. Peter Kiffin up the back there. So Peter was our very first builder back in 2009, and was shortly after deployed to the UK to run one of our first large builds at the Scottish Institute of Sport. He spent 3 years over there, worked with some great people, Liverpool Football Club, Scottish Institute, a number of other great clients, and just recently moved back to Australia and swapped out with Dan Duffield, who some of you will know. So again, a tremendous amount of experience there. Kirill Weinberg, where is he? Over there. Okay, so Kirill's been with us a couple of years now. And Kirill's mainly working with the AIS build and Australian Rugby, but a number of other clients as well. If you've got anything really complicated, ask him, not me. Ian Morrow. Ian Morrow is our Canberra-based. Where is he? There he is. Ian Morrow is based in Canberra. Joined us about 6 months ago. Working with a whole bunch of different clients, and Ian's actually doing some really interesting stuff, pioneering Smartabase into the education scene, working with some universities, and in some really great areas. He's actually managed to get a real amount of traction nationally going with Smartabase as a midwifery system. So again, just real testament to the flexibility of the software. At the end of the day, it's all just about human performance and health. And some of the things he could show you in the midwifery side of things are quite amazing. Tom Cramery, sorry, I always mispronounce that. So Tom joined us 9 months ago. Again, Tom comes from a strength and conditioning background, one of our builders, working with a number of professional teams, and also just assists us with keeping everything together. Was a big hand to us in organising the conference as well, so thanks, Tom. And again, is kind of one of your go-to men here at the conference. And last but not least, Sue Robson. So Sue Robson literally signed a contract with us yesterday, just in time. So Sue's joining our team to basically come in at a very high level of Smartabase and leverage her experience for the greater good of everybody, us and our clients. So Sue was, I won't steal her thunder because she's presenting later and she'll give you more detail, but Sue was probably our first big build, our first major project as Smartabase at the Scottish Institute of Sport. She ran the whole thing soup to nuts, did a lot of the building, did a lot of the project management, did a lot of pretty much everything, working closely with Peter. So again, just an awesome experience joining our team, not just in Smartabase, but in physiology, science, and everything in management in general. A bunch of people who aren't here. Our UK guys didn't make the cut. They're too busy, to be honest, and we just decided we might run another event over there next year. So I didn't get them the ticket. Alan and Ben are our software engineers that do sort of the programming on the other side of the business with SmartSpeed and things like that. But we're actually now starting to really integrate them with Smartabase as well. We just released a new timing system which actually now fully integrates with a Smartabase site via the API. We'll talk to you about that a bit more in our integration session, but it's a really good example of how that actually works and the possibilities that exist there with the API. So they're now becoming a good resource for us proactively going and doing those integrations rather than kind of just relying purely on the other vendors to get them done. Darlene is our invaluable admin manager, so she's not here today again. She's got to hold down the fort. Her and Alan, Ben's on holidays, her and Alan are literally sitting there by the phone. And I noticed last night that Todd redirected all AMS support calls to the office, so they're going to get, they're either going to get a cranky admin person or a guy that speaks not the best English on earth. So we'll see what happens with that. Unfortunately, the next 5 are our dev team, who are based in New Zealand, for those of you who don't know. So they're our joint venture partner profiler, so they do all the back end of the software. Again, they're just too busy. They're literally cutting releases every day at the moment and really hitting a really good stride as well. So we didn't want to interrupt that, and to be honest, they just really love to stay close to what they're doing and don't like to travel very much. A bit of housekeeping. Wi-Fi details are up there. Again, yell out if you get stuck. If you need anything, there's Tom and my mobile numbers. If you need anything at all, just give us a yell. Dinner arrangements. Tonight's just free. Just meet up, do your own thing. We're going to have a bit of a staff retreat. We were so busy and disorganised, we didn't even manage to book rooms here, so we're about 200 metres that way. You can see it, it's just over there. We're going to use it as an internal chance to catch up as well, since we've got people from all over the place. Tomorrow night we've got cocktails 6 till 7 and then a poolside barbecue dinner, so that's going to be a good social event as well, and hopefully not get into too much trouble. We've set up a conference app, so we've set up a site. Login details are here, so you've all been pre-registered in there with your username, first name, dot last name, all lowercase. Password is all the same for everybody. It's not a terribly secure site. Conference 2014, capital C. So we're going to upload our handouts in there that you can get to later. Distribute those to people. We'll put PDFs up there in the My Resources module. We're going to, as we go through the conference, roll out some questionnaires. When Peter launches scheduling, you're going to be able to see how that works and interface with that. Requests and ideas. We've just got some basic forms in there, so you can go in, dial up on your mobile app, put in any questions you've got, requests, ideas. Any transport requests you've got even. If you need to get to the airport on Friday, let us know what time and we'll try and match people up or see what we can do with that. And just notes. But So dial into that when you get a chance. One small favour we do ask, we really want to, when we agreed to sort of do this conference, it's always been something we wanted to do and we were a bit nervous about it. We said, okay, we'll be happy if we get 20 people, we'll be stoked if we get 30, we don't want any more than 40. We got 35, so thank you very much, and we're thrilled. It's right in the bullseye. We want to grow it though in future, and we want to build on this, and we do want to be able to make it an annual event. So sometime during the conference, we're going to set up just a little video camera. We'd love people to just drop by and give 1 or 2 minutes of just what you got out of the conference. So we'll do this probably on Friday at some stage. So if you don't mind doing that, we'll just set up somewhere, drop in 2 lines about what you found good about it. We'll sort of splice that all together and use that to promote the conference next year. Because people want to hear it from you, not from us. So Fusion, I'm going to give you a little quick history of where we came from. And this is hilarious. I found this a couple of days ago. So this is where it all started. This is SmartSpeed V0.1. The photo cell doesn't quite hang on anymore. It's actually cost me like $2,000 at the time. It was shattered, that's all I had. If anyone's interested in electronics, they should roll past later and have a bit of a look at this fine piece of art. But that's where it all started. It just started with a user who had a need. And it just went from there. Here's my first logo I even made as well. It's kind of embarrassing now, but thankfully we finally could afford to pay to get one made. What's Fusion about, or why Fusion? It was just always about bringing things together. It was always about... It was started at a time when Wi-Fi was brand new. I'm going to sound really old now. Bluetooth was brand new. There were no colour screens on phones. This was only in 2003. It's hard to remember how quickly this has all changed. There was no commercially available GPS. Again, it was about, okay, let's take these new wireless technologies and bring them into sports science and bring them into training as well. We didn't want to just make some timing stuff. We wanted it to go into daily training and try and really bring these things together. And that was what it was always about, and it has always been about. And it's not just about bringing technologies together as well. It's about accumulating knowledge and growing a team of people who have a collective knowledge that we can share and use. It's really about people as well. And again, this event is just a fantastic way for us to bring you all together. And that's what we really want this conference to be about. We're not going to sit here and teach you how to build advanced forms for 3 days. It's all about the practicalities of this whole thing. Obviously we will be doing some technical stuff, but it's really all about people. So where are we now? I'll just give you a quick snapshot. We have Smartabase sites in 12 countries. I'm talking now just about the Smartabase side of things, not the gates and everything. We're in a lot more with that. We've implemented this with over 100 different businesses or clients now, so we've got a lot of experience. There's I made this up. I just did a quick back of the hand. It might be more than this, but we're estimated there's over about 15,000 athletes using the system now. There's over 2,000 professional users using the system. And it's really growing for us. I mean, from launching this in 2010, it's now got to be more than half of our business, more than half of the revenue, far more than half of the people. It's about 2/3 of the people. And growing really well, averaging 30% growth. And the good thing about that is we're collecting this experience now. We're really hitting critical mass with it. It's really stable. It's a stable business, which is important. This is a journey. This is something that you will be using for years. So rest assured that we're a very stable experience, but we're not sitting still either. We're not resting on our hands by any means. We're I think the word I put before was burgeoning when I was talking to someone, and we're burgeoning in all directions. We're really ambitious about growing this in every direction. What is Smartabase? Firstly, it's a technology, and it's a lot more than an app. We get compared a lot to some simple apps that look really cool and do some really cool things that have been written in 6 months. This is a whole technology. It's had an amazing amount of development go into it. Over 40,000 hours of coding, of computer coding. Something that no business would do in its right mind. I mean, we were very fortunate to meet these people who just did it for the love of it, really, in the early days. It's made up of over 12,000 Java files for the tech heads around here. At current count, it was just nudging on 1.6 million lines of code that creates the software that you use. So it's a big platform. It's a big piece of technology. We're running and managing 23 servers around the world. And we've delivered it in the last 4 years of well over 10,000 hours of implementation as well. And that's a lot of experience spread across our team. So this is not something that was born yesterday. And that's, again, really important. It's not just about the technology. It's about the experience that goes with it. It's about the team. You know, I'm very proud of the team we've assembled and continuing to grow. You know, we've got in 3 countries. You know, we've got a lot of education in there, a lot of education, and most of that in sports science areas. You know, we're not sort of 15 programmers and 2 sports scientists. We're about half and half, or a bit more on the sports science side. Over 120 years of experience just in the sports science industry, collectively between us. That's a lot. It's a lot of experience. So again, that's there for you to use. And I think, well, again, one of the things we want to get out of this is to open these communication channels and not be a vendor, but be a partner. You know, we really need to try and strengthen those relationships, because half the time we go to meet with people and the final thing they say is, God, if only we'd had this meeting 6 months ago. So we really need to get better connections going. And again, that's really what this is all about. In terms of the community, you know, again, that's what this is all about. I've doubled up there, haven't I? You know, we've got clients all over the world. We've got clients in all different areas with all different needs at all different stages. But I really want to get you all connecting with each other, because I think there's a lot of benefit to be had there. And I've already had some people like Troy at QAS wanting to start up interest groups locally and things like that, and I think that's a fantastic idea. I want to try and work out how we do that without it just being completely fragmented. So that's one of the things we're going to discuss at the conference. And finally, Smartabase is a huge opportunity, not the opportunity for us, but the opportunity for you. You know, we're starting to, I mean, this goal of building one centralised platform for all of a business's data management, athlete data management, has often been seen as a real unicorn. You know, I mean, a lot of people have tried to do different things. This is actually succeeding really well, and again, with varying levels of success in different places, but we've got quite a lot now who are really, really achieving this goal of centralised data management. And the skills that you've developed in doing that, and the skills that the builders have and things like that, are becoming important skills. They're starting to pop up in job advertisements. They're starting to chop up in, you know, they're great skills to have. And whether that's building or whether it's the project management side or whatever, they're very, very important skills to have. So yeah, I hope you see it as a really good opportunity. And again, bringing people together, meet each other. Who knows? You might be offering each other jobs in 6 months or a year or whatever. And that's, again, what this is all about. There's a lot of things we've learnt. There's 1,000 things we've learnt. But I just wanted to, I guess, focus on these things as the kind of themes for the conference as well. Technology is only part of any solution. It's not going to solve all of the problems. It's how you put the technology to use that determines its value. And again, what I really want as a key theme of this whole conference is that word, value. It's about how do we squeeze maximum value out of this, not just keep growing the technology as much as we possibly can and hope that it all works out for everybody. You've got to join those two things together. And again, you know, that's something we really want to improve on. From looking across all of our different clients, and this is a pretty global statement. There's a lot more to it than this, but whether these projects live or die or succeed or stagnate is really based on these 3 things. You know, is it resourced properly? Is it resourced internally, externally? You know, has it got enough horsepower? Has it got enough fuel to actually achieve what the purpose of the project is? Does it have champions? And this is a big one. You know, you've got to have champions in your organisation that are behind this project, and not just behind it with a pat on the back saying, yes, this is great. It's about championing specifically in each area to ask, what are the questions that we're trying to answer with doing this whole thing in the first place? How do we ask those questions, and what do we need to do? And then driving those specific things. It's not just about, you know, hurrah, we're doing a database. So again, and the third thing again is communication. Communication is critical. Again, sometimes I go in to meet with clients and they'll be frustrated about something, and we've been frustrated with this for 6 months, and we solve it in 30 seconds. And they're like, oh, crap, what did we call you? So again, communication is vital. Communication internally, not just with us, communicating internally, communicating between yourselves. So again, that's what this conference is all about. Projects or an organisation's people are by far its greatest asset. Smartabase is a terrific technology, but if you don't have the right people behind it, if we don't have the right people behind it, it's not going to go anywhere. So again, congratulations to those of you who are driving this and doing a great job with it. And good luck to those of you who are just getting into it, because it is a great opportunity, and it's up to you whether it works or not. It's not up to us. We'll certainly do everything we can to help, but yeah. There's a million quotes on this, but this one, I don't know, most people probably don't like Bill Gates, but he's obviously done all right. Centralising your data is really a critical thing. It is a super critical thing. And still we see a lot of people with these different silos of data, and I've got some stats coming up on that. But when you can get all of these things together, when you can fuse all of these things together, it becomes much, much, much more powerful than the sum of the parts. And that's really, again, what this is all about. Whenever I hear someone going, yeah, we're going really well with this, but we're just sort of going to do that over there, I think that's a lost opportunity, and it's weakening what you can do. We can't do everything, but certainly in terms of the data that can come in and start to be mixed and add context to interpreting the other data, it's vital to get as much in as you can. Got a reference for this in a minute. An interesting book I read a while ago. Really good starting point on analytics and the whole area that's going to come up in the conference. This is a sports analytics user survey. They did 27 teams across just NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA and English Premier League. And the first one there is basically how many different sources of information do you use on a regular basis? And most people were more than 6, 46.7%. So again, it really shows even in these professional, well-funded, well-resourced organisations, the data is very fractured, and I guess it probably comes as no surprise to most of you. But 6.7% of people said that they had it in 1 to 2 sources, and again, like I said, this is an opportunity because that is an achievable thing. It's certainly very achievable to get to 3 to 4, but I think it's very achievable to get down to 2 or even 1. And the other one is quite scary, and I do hear about this quite often. Access to data dependent on one single person in the organisation. Basically, some data 50%, most data 43%. Most of the data is dependent on one person. And 6% said that all data was centralised. Again, that's frightening. That's a massive business risk for these organisations. Wow, what happens if that person gets hit by a bus? The whole thing falls apart. It's a house of cards. So again, even if you sort of, people say, oh, look, we're just going to leave this one in Excel because we're used to it. I say, well, what happens if that Excel file leaves? If the staff member leaves or something happens. So even if you're going to, and again, we integrate with Excel, we work with Excel, it's a great tool, but that data has to try and get in and be centralised, because then it's, not only is it powerful and usable, it's safe. And you have, from a business risk point of view, hugely important. I think from us running a business, we've got all our software files and all of those sorts of things. It's like running it all without a backup. It's a ridiculous risk for a business. So interesting, though, that people even admitted to this. This is another one as well to talk about, and again, it's about aligning. It's about aligning the people within an organisation. This is a book I was talking about, for those of you who haven't read it. It's called Sports Analytics. It sounds scary, but it's a great book. You can literally read it in 3 hours. It's 120 pages. But it's really a good introduction to why bother even collecting centralised data. It's a really cool book. And this was another part of the South survey. Was it's probably quite hard to read on there, but basically they had a bunch of questions about that they asked the personnel that were collecting and using the data, and then the IT department. And the first one, data is used consistently across all functions, e.g. same statistics, terminology. Personnel somewhat disagree. IT strongly agree. and that current goes on, you know, and again, so again, what we've tried to do with Smartabase, and I think the source of its success and popularity is the fact that when we go in to service a client, we don't send a programmer in. Programmers obviously are incredibly important to the software, but it's difficult to get that interface between those two very different groups of people. So again, it's about having that ability to go and soft customise right there with someone and actually kind of understand what they're trying to do as well. So, value. How do we actually drive value? I found this diagram, which is really good. It's all about sort of more in design, value-centred design, but how do you give people good value? And it's got two elements. You know, your businesses have got goals. There's goals that your organisations have and reasons they have for centralised data management, like safety, redundancy, security, you know, those sorts of things. But an athlete doesn't care about that. Whatever, I'm only here for 5 years and I do my own thing, and so it can't be just about that. On the other hand, it can't just be about keeping everyone at the user end happy either. You've got to balance those two things, and the mixture of those two things is the real value. You know, it's really about, and there's two things. For the business, it's all about return on investment, ROI. For the user, it's about return on experience. It's about how good is their experience, A, in getting things in, and B, in getting things out. And I think, again, a lot of the time, good value perception comes from, I think on the user end, for example, quite often we focus so much on getting everything in and meeting the business's needs that we forget about balancing that with the return on experience, i.e. the information going back quickly in a usable format that drives the return on experience for the users. And again, something we really want to focus on in this conference and beyond. And it's about going from what you're going to offer, what you're going to try and do, to what actually ends up getting delivered. And sometimes that's really good, but sometimes that gets completely off track and it needs to be pulled back into line. And I think it's about looking at those two things and pulling that balance, pulling that bubble back into the middle. So for the business, it's about, you know, driving it into as many areas as possible, maximising the use for the spend of time and money, reducing wasted time, getting rid of time-consuming tasks of processing big files or raw files or whatever else we can do in there, reporting. And integration and automation, we're going to talk a lot about that the next few days. We really want to drive integration now this next year. We've done a lot of work in the last 12 to 24 months on the API of Smartabase, the back end, the part that no one can see unless you're a crack programmer. But it's actually going to become a very important part of the future of the product, because we can now start to properly integrate with other products. So we can be that repository without having to do all of the double handling and make that a business burden and a personal burden. So again, really important. And it's about that, you know, that end-to-end implementation. So as a business, you know, not just collecting data for the sake of it, but actually using it to drive good decision making, to you know, to get a good return on the investment for the business. Again, sometimes it can go too far. It gets all about, well, let's just collect as much as we possibly can, and then it falls down to not actually doing anything useful with it. You know, we've got some people who, you know, I've seen some people collecting 800 different load variables and all these crazy things that, you know, and not really using them that well. And I've seen other people doing time by RPE and using it beautifully. You know, and that's a really good example of that end-to-end implementation. Okay, great if you can do you both, obviously, is the goal at the end of the day, but you've got to keep the balance. Users, it's about engaging all stakeholders, you know, and I think looking at knowing how to engage different stakeholders, you know, pushing the athletes to the mobile experience, it's much easier, much better for them, much better compliance. Giving coaches that don't even maybe want to use the system still something coming out of it. Live Excel reports is an example of that we're going to talk about. So having an experience with the system without even knowing how to log into it is possible, and is actually a really good way to get a lot of people started. Clear goals and purpose. Again, you know, we've got to get away from just building this thing for the sake of it. It's got to be about, especially when you do get into the analytics and things, like everyone said, oh, we're just going to collect everything and then we're going to feed it into an analytics platform and it's going to tell us all the answers. It doesn't work like that. It's about, even to start with, to that analytics journey, you've got to start with specific questions. What do we actually want to find out? And then structure your data management around that. You've got to streamline the experience, and again, we're going to go some of the things that will come up in this area. Some people are all over. Some have never heard of it. Custom page layouts, front page reporting. Again, streamlining the experience for people. At different user types and making it for all stakeholders as positive experience as possible. Really important. Setting expectations and delivering on them is a really big one. Don't try to do too much too fast. And again, it's going to come into a lot of the project management themes and things like that. And I think a big one is training and documentation. We've really got to remind everyone to document what they're doing, because again, that becomes a business risk. So, what if someone builds this magnificent thing and then leaves and no one knows how to use it? And again, Sue's going to talk to that quite a bit in one of her presentations, and how that can be done without it becoming this massive, behemoth of a task. There's been some great recent improvements in the software to really drive this value. We again, like I said, we did a lot on the back end. We've always done a lot on, questions that can have amazing filtering and linking and different combinations of all these different things in the sort of builder toolkit side of things. But thankfully, in the last year or so, there's been some rollout of some really good things which just have good organisational value. The scheduling system which we're launching after lunch, again, I think is for most people going to be just a really good value thing that gets people engaging with it, just to even know where they have to be and what they have to do. It's a simple thing, but it's really important data. But it's a good way to get people in and start giving them instant value. We just had a major mobile app release, which has brought some really new good things into that, which we'll go through in another presentation. Again, that's really for, when I said at the start, it's not just an app. The app is really important because for a lot of people, especially your athletes, that's the face of it. And again, getting that set up right, getting it looking right, using its functionality is really important. The document management upgrade that happened earlier in the year, kind of, for a lot of people, I guess when I noticed, even us, it was sort of because we don't really have the issue of document management, but it's sitting there waiting to be used. And document management is quite a big task and quite a burden for a lot of organisations. So even having that set up well and using that is a really useful thing. It's good value. We're really now starting to look at trying to get people's workflows optimised, getting things like GPS data. There's other data sources as well, but things where are people really losing their time? Because if we can cut those things off and try and automate them, or at least make them as easy as possible, there's time to be spent doing more training, doing more implementation, using the data, going and doing something with it. And currently on the bench and in other areas, video. We recognise that video is a critical data source, and it's a qualitative data source. So how do we do that? We've built all these amazing things for all the quantitative things you could possibly ever want to do, but we now need to recognise and improve on this qualitative side of things. So we've got some new things in that area to present as well. So in terms of that, I mentioned before, in terms of integration, it's really, our goal is not to do everything. Our main goal is clear. It's to be the one central repository around which everything else. Again, it's about fusion. It's about bringing together all of the other things. Other things are purpose-built. They will have better interfaces. They will have better, specific analysis on a certain data set. We don't want to try and conquer all of those things and just replace everything. That would be ridiculous. But we do want to be that one central repository because we think that's a valuable position to be in, and it's a valuable asset for businesses and users to have. We continue to drive that soft customization capability. We get often compared to products that are hard-coded. And that's really tough because we're like, yeah, well, okay, that looks awesome, but can it do this? Well, no, but it looks awesome. And we need to improve on the user interface, and we've got a lot of that in this conference. But it's also about, where is our focus? Where is the value that we most deliver? And the soft customization side of it is very unique to this product and why it's doing so well. To be able to sit down with a sports science trained person and just build out things is really unique, and I think that's why it's working. We really want to sort of cooperate and work with as many technologies as we can. We've been casually reaching out to a lot of these vendors, GPS companies, video companies, things like that, and now it's really, and again, with getting Sue on board, my mission now is to put more time into that, really driving those relationships that we have business to business with these other vendors and really hammering them. We're going to need your support though, because when we ask them to do something, they're like, yeah, okay, it goes down here. If you ask them to do something, it goes up here. So, but again, we'll be tapping people on the shoulder and saying, hey, you work with them. Can you help us get that done? Can you help us push that? But we're prepared to develop. We can deploy resources to do that now. We've always been prepared to, but now we've actually got those programmers who have engaged and learnt that process. You know, and there's some already there on the screen that we've already worked with in terms of integration, some that are sort of coming up and we're waiting to get going. And a lot of technologies are starting to move towards this centralisation as well. A great example of it now is these health kits. So the Apple Health Kit that's just come out with iOS 8 is about, there's how many variables? There's something like 4,000 standardised variables in health and wellness, where you can build an app that does whatever, and you can map that to one of these variables in the rigid standard data dictionary of the Apple Health Kit. Now for us then, that provides a beautiful data source that we simply need to build forms for, that then can just pull that data in or have that data pushed in. So that opens it up to, you know, I don't know, I looked the other day, there was already over 100, 200 apps that are connected with the health kit, and everyone's jumping on board with it. I mean, it's an obvious thing. Again, it's about bringing all these things together rather than, it's smart by Apple, it's rather than having all of these fractured apps doing all different things. Let's rip it all together and put it into something that combines it all, because that's where the value is. Google, Android are doing the same thing. They're all getting on board with it. It's not just an Apple thing. So that's exciting. That's super exciting. So we are currently in discussion with all of those ones there and some more, and they've all said that, you know, it's something they will definitely get into early next year. And they've realised now we're not trying to replace them, we're trying to work with them. And, you know, one of the point I made to one of them was it's not just a one-way thing. You could pull data back out of the customer Smartabase side into your software. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's different. And that's totally possible. So where to next? One of the things we'll be launching tomorrow. Everyone's talking about big data and analytics and predictive modelling and all these sorts of things. And obviously, you know, we've all heard the stories of Moneyball, and a lot of you are a long way down. Some of you are a long way down the road with this. Some of you are thinking about doing it. I go to a lot of places where they go, yeah, we're getting into it, but don't really know what they're getting into just yet. It's a complicated thing. But it can be made simple, and again, it's about working out what you want to do and doing it in a value-driven way. So we'll be launching a new product that the AIS brought to us and recommended, that we've now been set up, called Spotfire as an analytics platform. And Murph and Frank from Tibco will be in tomorrow launching that and taking you through it. Just to talk about that, I mean, and this is really important in the context of things, you know, I came across this, which really sort of explains what is analytics. You know, at level one, you've got your basic operational reporting, and that's where a lot of people are still, especially, you know, a lot of the new clients that come on board, it's all in different Excel files, it's in different things, it's in Access or Excel, or it's on paper, or it's totally fragmented and really hard to analyse, and it's certainly of no value to do any analytics on. You can't even think about it. Step two is where I think we've really added to a lot of people's analytics capabilities. Again, it's about that multi-dimensional data starting to come into one place, starting to be analysed contextually in light of other things, and starting to do nifty calculations and starting to mash that data. But again, benchmarking, dashboarding, and having those things available in real time as well, not, you know, once a week or once a month. It's about you're driving that real time value of it. That's where I guess most people are if they're lucky. There are some people who are now starting to get into level 3, starting to really go through this data and go, okay, where are these real relationships? What actually does, you know, what are these actionable indicators? Where can we start to flag things that actually we know mean something, and then start to track those? You can't just feed in a whole bunch of things and do a million regression equations and go, okay, that's the meaning of life. That's the first step in analytics. The second step is to build those models and test them and train them, and this is all, you know, terms like machine learning and things like that, which Frank will talk about tomorrow. it's a process that has to be gone through. It's not just going to happen like that because you plug in an analytics platform and feed it a bunch of data. But there's no doubt about it. There's huge value to doing it, but you just got to do it right. The importance of user interface. This is something that is always a real challenge for us. It's a trade-off between that sort of back-end power of the system and that front-end of usability and first initial experience of users and ease of use. And that's, obviously, irrespective of how many resources you have, there's a law of diminishing returns with software programming. You can't just throw 100 programmers at something and have it happen 10 times faster than if you have 10 programmers. It just doesn't work that way. So there's been a lot of balancing act on that, and we have done a lot of work on the back end, but we know that we need to really drive this now. It is an important thing now that we've got a lot of users using it and people starting to do this. We've got to make everything easier. Again, it's about the user side of that value diagram I showed. You do need to do them carefully though. Like, we can't just go out and remodel this thing. I mean, everybody's got workflows that are established. There's a lot of things they like about it, so we can't just flick the switch and go, hey, I mean, has anyone, classic example for me, been using Windows for 25 years, and I went and bought a computer with Windows 8 on it, and I just really nearly threw it out the window within like an hour. I goes, what have they done? So we don't want to do that. We really don't want to do that, and we've got to be really careful not to do that. It's easy enough when you're building a new product, no one's got it yet, okay, fine, we'll just keep building it until everyone's happy, but when you've got a bunch of existing people who are hinging on it, you can't just go, ta-da! So again, we're going to have a really cool session this afternoon, actually, a workshop where we're just going to hand out butcher's paper and plant some seeds and go, right, what have you got? Because we keep saying this to the programmers as well, we just want it to look better, we want it to look like the web pages and things like that. We need a spec. So it'd be really cool for you to today and onwards help us write that spec, and we'll get it done. But we need to know what it is. It's a very open question, and programmers can't handle open questions, and they shouldn't. I mean, it's just not. You don't give programmers open questions. Well, you end up with open results. You've got to get that done. Again, maximize the value through the changes, not make changes for the sake of it. I mean, so we need to know where to put our time and where to put our effort. We really need to get that clear, and also we need to make sure that people are really using what's already available. There's a heap of look and feel customizability there that Merck's going to take us through this afternoon. It's already there. Some people are using it really well. Some people don't even know it exists, and we just want to again communicate that. These are your current options. Let's make the most of those, and then let's talk about what can be done next. As I said at the start, we're really super keen to build this community, and I'm very interested to, at the end of this, decide to launch something, whether it's a Google group, whether it's a Facebook group. I'm not the greatest at all of those things, but you all use a bunch of different tools. So bring them forward, talk to us in the breaks, talk to us in the forums, and let's pick something, let's get something going. Because I think it would be fantastic for everyone to be able to post questions and get answers, not just from us, but from users. Because again, the questions often are about experience, not about how do I build this. There's a lot of things that people want to know, and we don't have all those answers. So yeah, totally up for suggestions on that. I'm very keen to get it going. So just to summarise, really what this is about is driving value for your businesses and your users. Okay, and I want you to keep thinking about that value. We want to keep introducing new features to drive engagement, things like the scheduling and different things like that, better reporting, easier ways to get information out, different things like that, the mobile app. They're all things that we're aware of and driving. Really improve that best practice use and implementation, because again, that's where half of it is. I think you've got the technology, but then how you use it is half the battle, and we've really got to drive that. And we really want to get a lot of feedback from you. You're all very friendly Indians in this crowd. You're all doing really well with it, or at least very positive of where you're going with it. So yeah, we want to hear from you. Don't be afraid to bring it forward. And we just want to connect you all. And I think that, like I said, that's going to be the best thing that comes out of this. So without that, welcome, and again, thank you for coming. That was a faux pas. So I'm going to introduce Peter Kiffin. Peter's going to come up now and, yeah, it's you. You got a program, haven't you? Peter's going to come out now, and yeah, with great excitement, he launched the new scheduling appointment system. Just give you an overview of that, and again, we've got a workshop on that tomorrow, the next day.